If you've spent your life chasing success, checking every box, and still wondering, is this all there is? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Overachiever's Oracle podcast, a sacred space where we dive into the lives of professional women who've been taught to measure their worth by how much they achieve. Here, we explore a spiritually rooted path to untangle ourselves from hustle culture and reconnect with who we truly are. I'm your host, Dr. Giovanni Washington, a former overachiever turned liberation guide, and I'm here to walk you through this journey. Welcome to the show. What if I told you that your desires aren't gone? They're just hidden, tucked under layers of performance, of survival, of expectation. And what if I told you that everything that you've been chasing is already inside you? It's not missing, it's not broken, it's just buried. So many of us walk around not even realizing how far we've drifted from our desires, because performance has become our personality and survival has become our story. But here's some thoughts to consider. Desire isn't indulgent, it's directive. Desire is the compass of the soul. It's how we remember what matters before the world taught us to shrink. A woman in touch with her desire is a woman who cannot be controlled. And that's exactly why systems of control like colonialism, patriarchy, white supremacy work so hard to disconnect us from it. We learn to mask, we learn to code switch, to be palatable, to stay in our lane. We become fluent in the art of shrinking. We shapeshift to survive. But here's what I want you to remember. We are already masters of a sacred technology. And this sacred technology lives in your bones. We've used it to adapt, to protect, to succeed, to survive. But now is a time to shapeshift on purpose. Not into what the world wants, but into who we are becoming. In my Liberation Alchemy framework, there's a phase called illuminate. It's the part where we turn the light on. Not just to see what's been hiding, but to remember what's always been glowing underneath. This episode lives in that sacred space. This is the space where desire, tender, ancient, and alive, starts to flicker back to life. So before we go deeper today, I want to tell you about some of the voices in this episode. Every few months, I host something called a goddess activation. It's a 5-day spiritual journey where we walk with one of the Black goddesses and explore her teachings together. Each activation begins with a short video on Monday introducing the goddess and her wisdom. Then, over the next several days, I send prompts to help the participants live into those teachings. And at the end of the week, we gather in what I call the Goddess Council. And this is a space of reflection, of witnessing, and of deep remembering. It's not a Q&A. It's where women name their truths out loud and often for the first time. So the activation that inspired this episode was guided by Kianda, the shape-shifting sea goddess of Angola. Kianda's teachings helped us explore our dreams, our buried desires, and the versions of ourselves that we've been taught to silence. Kianda is a mermaid. She is a being who moves between the worlds, fluidly, fiercely, and unapologetically. That's why we call her a shapeshifter. She lives in the water, but she can walk on land. She holds the realms of dreams. She is both feared and beloved because she is uncontrollable. And it was through her wisdom that I realized that the ability to shapeshift isn't just a survival tactic, and that's the way that we've mostly deployed it. It's actually a skill. This is a gift. It is definitely a technology of freedom. And we don't need to discard it. We need to reclaim it because you've already shapeshifted into safety, into strategy, into silence. And now Kianda is asking us, what happens if you shape-shifted into joy, into your own voice, into the version of you who knows exactly what she wants? Can you feel that version of you rising from the water with seaweed in her hair and salt on her skin, with a knowing in her eyes? She is not asking you to perform. She's asking you to remember. And one of the most powerful things that a woman shared in our shape-shifting goddess council was something like, I am her, I'm not becoming, I'm not preparing, I'm arrived. She realized it was already the person she was trying to be, the way she was trying to be in the world already existed. Another woman realized that the powerful version of her dream self was alive already inside of her. And the participant could feel this being encouraging her to live out her dreams. And that's the power of calling your dream self forward, of making space for her presence before you feel ready. And what about you? Has your dream self been whispering? Is the version of you that is whole and wise and wanting? If she could speak right now, what would she say? So there's no shade here. We shapeshifted because we had to. And there are costs to survival shapeshifting. And that's where the light starts to pour in. We've learned how to adjust our tone in meetings, how to hold our brilliance back just enough not to rattle the egos. We knew how to make others feel safe, even when we didn't feel safe ourselves. We learned how to move between the worlds. I heard this again and again in the Shapeshifting Goddess Council. Describing a recent corporate meeting, one woman told us she was sitting in a high-level meeting with her shoulders back, her smile in place, speaking fluent strategy. She was good at it. She was polished. She was impressive. But you could see the cloud come across her face when she remembered walking out thinking, I just made the whole room feel comfortable while I disappeared in plain sight. And that's what survival shapeshifting feels like, disappearing on purpose. And listen, it's not just in the workplace, it's everywhere. We get cast in roles that feel productive, but keep us from ourselves. The responsible one, the fixer, the rock, the caretaker, the one who holds it all together. And these roles get rewarded, and they come with applause and respect, but they come at the cost of joy, of sovereignty, of knowing what you actually want. And for Black women, these roles hit even harder. We are praised for our strength, but punished for our softness. We're expected to serve, but not to want, and to hold space, but not take up space. These aren't just archetypes. These are cages dressed up like crowns. In our Goddess Council, we name the roles we've been given and the versions of ourselves we had to bury in order to keep them. One participant, for example, shared how she's no longer willing to dim her lights in order to make other people comfortable. She is choosing to show up fully as her unapologetic self. Another reflected on how caregiving had defined her identity for decades. First it was children, then it was parents, but now that everyone is out of the house, she's standing in a vulnerable place with a vulnerable question. Who am I if I'm not caring for everybody else? Now, these are not just reflections. These are awakenings. I had a similar awakening, actually many times. People would ask me, in my academic journey, people would ask me, what do you like? What do you want to be? And it would always leave me frozen. I could tell you what I was good at. I could tell you what I didn't like. I could tell you what people needed from me. I could tell you what would make my parents proud. But what I actually liked, what I wanted, I don't know. And it's not because I didn't have desires. It's because I buried them so deep, performing all these other roles and making other people happy, making other people comfortable, hiding myself, putting myself at risk for other people. Not at risk. That's not what I want to say. But what I liked and what I wanted, I didn't know. And it wasn't because I didn't have desires. It was because I'd buried them so deep that I wasn't in touch with who I really wanted to be. And when I finally got quiet enough to listen, the first thing I heard was a clear answer. It was grief, a soft grief. And this was proof that something sacred had been silenced. And when we feel it stir, that's not weakness. That's your soul trying to speak again. What I've come to learn is that desire does not respond well to pressure. Sometimes it's shy, tender. And so instead of giving you a list of possible ways you can get back in touch with your desire, I want to offer you just one invitation, one doorway. We'll call this the practice of remembering what you loved. What did you love before the world taught you what you were supposed to be? Before the grades, before the deadlines, before the roles, before the responsibilities. So close your eyes, unless you're driving, close your eyes and let your mind wander back. Because often I mean, I'm 100% convinced that we actually know what we want and we just deny and lie to ourselves about what it is we really want. But there have been clues, if not large billboards throughout your life, of the things that really fill your tank and make you happy and bring you joy. Want you to let your mind wander back to a moment when you were simply absorbed, not productive, not impressive, just fully yourself. Was it singing? Was it running? Was it playing? Was it drawing suns in the corner of your notebook? Was it a scent, a summer soundtrack, a color you couldn't stop wearing? Let whatever it is come up and let it be enough. You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to make it make sense. You don't have to ask anything of it. Just feel that version of yourself for a breath or two longer. And that flicker of memory, that is not just nostalgia. It is actually a breadcrumb, and it is a path back to your aliveness. Desire speaks in memory and in sensation. And so today, my request of you is that you simply notice what stirs. That's the practice. That's the awakening. So this week, I encourage you to practice shapeshifting on purpose because you are an expert shapeshifter. Now, the trick here is to not shapeshift into what they want you to be, but into the you that's been waiting, into the you that's been in hiding, into the you that has been unilluminated until now. If it was that scent in that memory, if it was a color, if it was an action, dive into that, lean into that. Put music on that moves you for pleasure. You're not performing for anyone. And move how your body wants you to move. Let that be your offering. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your yes. You don't need a 5-year plan. Our practice is about listening to the yes. It turns out the shapeshifting that you've done to survive holds the exact same wisdom you need to shapeshift into joy. In our Goddess Council, one participant reflected on how she had spent years believing that she needed more credentials to be taken seriously. But through our work, she came to recognize that the healer, the guide, the wise one was already within her all along. And that's what shapeshifting on purpose is. Not about becoming more, just remembering what's been true all along. So, you've shapeshifted under pressure. You're really good at that. Now you get to shapeshift into peace. Right now, wherever you are, drop your shoulders, breathe into your belly, loosen your jaw, straighten your spine. If you're sitting down, feel your back body against the chair, the seat of the chair and the back of the chair. Let the breath fill your body all the way to your fingertips, all the way to your toes. This is the beginning of what it feels like to take up your full shape. Not to perform, not to protect, just be. So if something got stirred in you today, I don't want you to let it flow away. I want you to say it out loud. Whisper it into your tea. Write it down. DM me. Email me. Share it with me. I want to hold this truth with you, and I will hold it tenderly. Next week, we're going to talk about our ancestors and what it means to call them and to support this journey. Because now that we've identified the things that we want, we can now call in the support that we need. I'll see you next week. And until then, keep listening inward, keep honoring your desire, and you're coming home to yourself.